What's up, guys? I am back, and this is my new check-in day. So I know last week on Saturday, I said I was going to start doing my check-in review videos on Saturdays. We moved my check-in day to Thursday. So it just works better for our schedules, both my coaches and my own. So we're going to stick with Thursday for my check-in. So you guys are getting this second check-in video a little bit early, but the principle remains the same. I'm just going to kind of walk through my check-in here for the week. Even though this one was only about 5 days, this was a little bit shorter than a week. Not a full check-in here, right? So, well, a full check-in, but not a full week between check-ins. So kind of a little different than usual. But we are going to start with the same stuff as we started with last week, which is going to be all of my metrics, my weight, glucose, all those things. So hopping right into that, my weight this week or on this check-in, 216 pounds on the nose. From my last check-in, that's up 0.6 pounds. So it's about right on track. Obviously, by the 1 week mark on Saturday, that'll probably be up a little further. Getting close to the point where we have to increase food, but I will hop into that in a minute. Glucose level this morning was 93. So that is the same as it was on my previous check-in, but still a little higher than we like to see it. So we are going to address that. Again, I'll get into that in a moment. And then my blood pressure was 129/81. Pretty much normal range, slightly elevated on that systolic number, on the upper number there, but nothing to be concerned with. Still on only 40 milligrams of telmisartan, so plenty of room to continue up with both telmisartan and co-therapy with amlodipine if needed. I usually don't need that. Usually at the point where I need a secondary blood pressure medication alongside 80 milligrams of telmisartan, we're getting to the point where I should be cutting my growth phase short anyway. Still waiting on blood work to come back. I just had that done at the tail end of last week, so blood work typically takes about 1 to 2 weeks to get full results back on. So again, still waiting on that, but expecting everything to be in good shape. Nothing that's going crazy, as a signal that would tell me that anything's wrong. Not that that's something you're gonna have if your blood work's out of whack. In fact, more often than not, nothing is gonna feel different even if your blood work is out of whack. Nothing crazy that I'm like, oh shit, I need to, pump the brakes for some reason. So before I jump into the posing and my actual visual check-in review for the week, so changes to my meal plan, my food. Basically, we added 130, 140 calories on my training days this week, not on rest days, just training days. We're just moving my total protein intake up a little bit to account for the new heightened body weight. 10 more grams of protein powder with my breakfast. If you want to see what my meals are looking like right now, I did a full day of eating video, I think about a week ago. That's still pretty much the same. Obviously, it's going to change a little bit now, but it's still basically the same thing. Again, we've added 10 grams of whey or 10 additional grams of whey to my first meal, about 20 grams of additional ground turkey with my second meal, 20 grams of chicken with my pre-workout meal. That's it, not my post-workout meal. My post-workout meal, we've added about 15 grams of whey. That's it. We really just did changes to the protein to bring those calories up. Nothing crazy, just a little bit of a nudge up in protein. My total macro breakdown on my training day now is going to be 3,986 calories, 282 grams of protein, 547 grams of carbs, and 75 grams of fat. Pushing food a little bit higher now. We started out coming out of the deficit at about 2,800 calories. So you can see even about 8-9 weeks in now, how things really just start to ramp up. I see a lot of people come out of a deficit and just throw calories at their meal plan. They just come out at like 2,000 calories as their training day intake. And then they're like, okay, it's time to grow 6,000 calories. I'm gonna eat like Jay Cutler did. And it's like, no, don't fucking do that. You're adding they add like 5,000 calories to their daily total within the course of a week. And it's like, that's a recipe for disaster, just upsetting all sorts of processes within the body, not even accounting for the extra weight you're gonna put on. The just stress that puts on your gut is insane. And gut health is really crucial in bodybuilding or just general health. Something that I always tell my clients is we're going to get to that point where your calories are very high. It's gonna happen. That's how we do a long extended off season, right? You're going to need to move that food higher to reach those goals. But we're not just gonna do it all at once. We might only add 100 calories to those training days week over week. After 20 to 30 weeks, that really starts to total up. You see a huge increase. You know, that last week of your off season, yeah, you might be at 6,000 calories, but you don't need that right out of the gate. Nutrition aside, we will hop into the training changes that we made this week. And the only thing that changed is my structure for my pull day. Basically, instead of doing a single arm lat biased pull down, we're now doing the machine row. The same one that I've had in place as my second movement is now the first movement of the day. We added one set to that. So instead of doing 2 sets of that, we're gonna be doing 3 sets of that. Follow that up with 3 sets of a seated V-grip cable row, and then 3 sets of a single arm high row, which has also been in place. Same thing, nothing changes there. The only new movement that we've added is 3 sets of assisted back extension. So that, you know, back extension machine, not like off of a bench, but on a machine. So reason we're doing this is trying to bring up some of my mid to low back, which is obviously a very tough point for me to work. That is something I struggle with. My lats have greatly improved, and we know that we can draw improvement out of the lats with the volume that we have in place, but finding the movements and the volume that works for the rest of my back, my mid back and low back, that's where we're still kind of tweaking things. So that's the only change this week, but that's what's changed with training. And now we are going to hop into my check-in pictures for the week. Same thing as last week, just gonna review them pose by pose. I'm gonna start setting up my posing a little bit differently when I get out to Las Vegas. As you guys can see from the wonderful mess behind me, we've sold all of our furniture. I'm standing in the kitchen doing this video, and there is a mattress on my living room floor because that is currently our couch. We are moving to Vegas in about a month and a half, and that's a cross-country move for us. So we are getting rid of everything we can within reason, shipping the rest, and then driving our asses out there. That is gonna be my deload week, but my point being, once we get out there, I'm going to have a dedicated space in my office room that's a posing area where everything's going to be marked off, my standing position, my tripod position. There's going to be a dedicated tripod, light boxes. Everything will be set up so that these photos that you guys are looking at or about to look at will be greatly improved. And for me, that means that I can have the exact same setup every single week going into my posing pictures for my check-in and my posing practice in general. What's nice about that is there's no guesswork. You know, some of these pictures, you might see them being a little closer currently from last week. I have areas marked off on the floor, but it's like, I don't have the exact same height for my tripod. You know, not everything always lines up perfectly with the angle on the camera, all that stuff. And the other big thing is I'm gonna have light boxes instead of overhead lighting. When you're taking check-in pictures, you wanna flash as much light on you as possible, generally speaking. Avoid overhead lights, because even in my check-in pictures, you'll see, like, you know, here on my back double bicep, there's a lot of shadows, right? Because of the overhead lighting. So box lights, front-facing lights, anything like that really help to reduce that shadowing. When I see guys taking check-in photos for me who are standing in perfect natural light, you know, letting it come in through their window, they're trying very hard to make the picture as perfect as possible for lighting. You almost want to make it as imperfect as possible in terms of what's optimal for creating this kind of look on your body. So getting into my poses, my check-in photos here, we're going to start with the back double bicep here. This I was pretty happy with. I mean, again, we're doing this 5 days after my previous check-in, not even a full week yet. So not a lot has really changed here in the physique. My posing was a little different this week just because I actually dropped my hips under my torso a little bit more. So I'm not sure I'm super happy with it. I think it kind of flushed out, or washed out rather, my legs a little bit, my hamstrings. But overall, this is looking good. We've added a lot of width to my lats. The thing we really just need to focus on bringing up now is that mid to low back for me. And once we get that locked in and start really getting that to come up, it'll be over. That'll be exactly what we need. So moving into my side chest, this was my favorite picture I took this week. This felt really good. I kind of set up a little bit differently for this, where I almost started the pose coming at like an angle rather than starting perfectly 90 degrees with the wall. I came a little far over and then rotated into it. And I feel like that locked my leg into a better position for this. So I feel like my leg actually is probably the best part of this pose for me right now. But overall, really happy with this. I feel like my chest is in a good spot. My arms are in a pretty reasonable spot for my overall size. Could use some more delt. Who doesn't? Everybody needs more shoulder, right? But I'm happy with this. I think it's pretty solid. So not a ton to note here. I think my calves look a lot bigger in the shot, but again, I think my leg is kind of the highlight here this week. Going into my front lat spread, again, this week, that right shoulder was just hiked up a little bit for me, which isn't the greatest, but it's also a little deceptive just because the floor in this apartment is not fully level, it doesn't look like. So when I set up on the camera here, it's a little tilted. So my shoulder is still raised, but it's not as raised as this picture would imply. But again, this looks good. I'm pretty happy with this. Still trying to work on adding lat width. I think I look pretty solid here over where we were previously, where I had not much at all. But obviously, I always want more. I always want to improve that. Going into my ab and thigh here, this was really solid. Not a lot to say here. This is always a pose that I think fits me pretty well. I feel like I have pretty solid abs. Obviously, the condition's still there. Everything feels really good. I don't feel overfed or underfed, but the condition is also holding. Performance is good in the gym. Really solid all around. Happy with this pose. No complaints. And then this shot, which is my most muscular, I tried something a little bit different with this week, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. So obviously I changed up my positioning here. Instead of having arms on hips or, the front of my thigh, the upper part of the thigh really, to just doing like a crab most muscular here. I'm pretty happy with this. I think that the other pose probably suits me a little bit better and we just need to fill out, but this brings out the proportion better as my physique is currently. So I do like to use this time in the growth phase off season to kind of play with some of my posing on my check-ins just to see what works. Obviously we're not doing a ton of really intense posing practice because there's no competition currently on the horizon. We're not in prep. We're not trying to actively improve that as much. Obviously you want to improve it, but this is the time to kind of play around with things. So this is good. I'm pretty happy with this. I'm actually really happy with how my arms look in this. I think my whole kind of upper body looks a lot better when I pose like this, but the other pose I think brings out more width and a little bit better visual to my legs. So still plenty of time to play around with what works best for me. Front double here. Actually, this looks a lot better than my previous check-in, I think. I wasn't hiking up that right shoulder as much. Still a little bit of extra elevation there, but it definitely wasn't as much as it has been in the past. Obviously, it looks like my right bicep has a little less definition than my left, but when you measure it, it's not. It's just kind of how my insertions work from arm to arm. So again, happy with this, no complaints, conditions holding. And pretty much the same can be said for my back lat spread here. This is quickly becoming one of my favorite shots because of how much my back has improved. I really like seeing that. And I'm super happy with this. This feels really good. Again, you can see here this week, I kind of overcorrected on that right shoulder in this pose, but honestly, it looks good regardless. I'm really happy with it. Condition is holding, as I've been saying. So this is good. And I think, yeah, we have side tricep. Side tricep, last shot for me to review here. Was pretty happy with this week. Not a whole lot to it, honestly. I feel like this is pretty, again, the same thing I've been saying. Condition is holding. I don't have any complaints with it. This week, this actually felt pretty good. I was able to lock in pretty good here. I think something I do need to keep in mind is maybe bringing my torso a little bit further over my toes in this pose. Right now, I'm kind of like leaning it back as, I kind of lean back to lock that arm in. But I think if I kind of crunch down those abs a little bit and brought this forward in the torso, it would add a little bit more of just a nice straight line visual to my physique, but also close that gap that you can see between my forearm and my low back a little bit and give this illusion almost of just a little bit more width and stage presence overall. So that's something I am trying to keep in mind when I'm doing this, but again, not a huge concern as of right now. And with that being the last pose, that is going to wrap it up for the check-in for the week, guys. All right, guys, 2 changes that I said I was going to address in the beginning of this video and totally forgot about until I was editing it. So now I'm re-recording. My insulin went up because my glucose was starting to move up a little bit. So we moved my Lantus dosage up from 5 IU per day to 10 IU per day. And even though we don't have blood work back yet, we moved the PED doses up slightly. Just the test, we just moved that up about 200 milligrams. So we're now at 1,000 milligrams of test and 1,000 milligrams of mast. I just got to tack that on since I forgot to record it. That's going to be it. Next week, it'll be Thursday, so a full week for my next check-in, but you guys can expect a PED series discussion video on Saturday. I'm going to start going into individual compounds and breaking that kind of stuff down for those who might be interested in that, because I get a ton of questions on PEDs, anabolics, all that sort of stuff all the time. You know, I upload my training videos every day. Thursdays are check-ins, Saturdays are PED discussion videos. So if you like any of that content, make sure to like, subscribe. Tell me what compound you want me to discuss, what questions you might have for training, nutrition. I'm always happy to answer questions. And until next time, guys, take it easy.